Welcome, everyone. I'm just so glad you're joining us today for a brand new deep dive into the source material.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We have a really fascinating stack of notes lined up for you today. We are looking at, well, the art of negotiation,
Right.
but we're not talking about, dry academic theories or standard corporate bargaining tactics.
No, definitely not.
We are diving into excerpts from the book Never Split the Difference, negotiating as if your life depended on it. And the source material here comes straight from the real-world experiences of Chris Voss.
Yeah, he's the FBI's former lead international kidnapping negotiator. He wrote this with Tahl.
And it's a genuinely unique perspective.
It really is. We're essentially taking these field-tested hostage negotiation tactic strategies that were designed for literally the most high-stakes life-or-death situations imaginable and translating them into practical tools that you can use in your everyday life.
Right, like whether you're trying to get a better price on a car or hash out a multi-million-dollar business contract or, honestly, just trying to get your kid to go to sleep at 9 p.m.
Exactly.
These tools apply because the real hook here is that almost everything we've been taught about negotiation is totally wrong.
Yeah, completely backwards.
We tend to think it's all about logic, right? Logic, reason, finding compromises. But humans are not rational machines. We are irrational, highly emotional animals.
We really are.
And today, you are going to learn how to hack that emotional wiring. So, okay, let's unpack this.
A great place to start is with that exact myth, the myth of rationality. For decades, the prevailing wisdom in negotiation circles was just that if you present a logical, mathematically sound argument, you'll reach an agreement.
Right?
But the source material just shatters that idea right out of the gate with this incredible story.
Oh, man, I was absolutely glued to this opening anecdote. So Chris Voss, who he started out as a street cop in Kansas City before becoming this top FBI agent. He goes to Harvard Law School.
Right.
He's there for a short executive negotiation course, just trying to see what the business world can teach him. But the director of the Harvard Negotiation Research Project, Robert Mnookin, invites him into his office.
And it's a total trap.
It's a complete trap.
Rob.
Mnookin has another heavyweight negotiation professor, Gabriella Bloom, in there with him, plus a tape recorder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Mnookin just looks at Voss, smiles, and says, "We've got your son, Voss. Give us $1 million or he dies. What are you going to do?"
It is the ultimate stress test. I mean, you have these brilliant academics, absolute masters of modern negotiation theory, essentially trying to bulldoze a former beat cop in a role play.
But the tactic Voss uses to completely disarm them is just brilliant. Every single time Mnookin threatens to cut his son's throat or demands the money, Voss just gives him this long, slow stare, smiles, and asks calibrated, open-ended questions.
Right, he doesn't argue.
Exactly. He just says things like, "I'm sorry, Robert. How do I know he's even alive? And how am I supposed to do that?" He doesn't make any demands. He just keeps asking these questions. And within 3 minutes, the Harvard professors are totally flustered.
They're exhausted.
Yeah, they're exhausted because Voss has essentially forced them to solve his problems for him.
What's really fascinating here is that shift from logic to emotion. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the historical context of hostage negotiation.
Right, the 70s and 80s.
Exactly. In the 1970s and 80s, especially after massive tragedies like the Munich Olympics and the Waco siege, the prevailing academic theory was all about rational problem solving.
Okay.
Think of the really famous book, Getting to Yes. The idea was to separate the person from the problem and create these logical win-win scenarios. The absolute gold standard back then was finding your BATNA.
Okay, wait, I saw that acronym in the notes. That's a best alternative to a negotiated agreement, correct?
That is the one, yeah. So the theory was that you calculate your best walkaway option, you calculate their best walkaway option, and you logically meet in the middle.
Sounds very math heavy.
It is. It's a highly mathematical, rational approach.
Right.
But the FBI realized something crucial on the ground. Kidnappers do not care about your BATNA.
Right.
They aren't rational problem solvers. You simply cannot use a rational model on an irrational actor.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, if someone has a hostage, they aren't sitting there running a cost-benefit analysis on a spreadsheet.
No, not at all.
Which brings in the underlying psychology that the book relies on. The text heavily references the groundbreaking work of psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman.
Yes. Kahneman proved that humans operate under heavy cognitive biases and rely on two distinct systems of thought.
System 1 and System 2, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
System 1 is our animal mind. It's fast, instinctive, and deeply emotional. It's essentially our survival brain.
Okay.
System 2 is the slow, deliberative, logical part of our brain. That's the
Huh.
part that does math or calculates a BAT and A. And here's the real kicker. System 1, the emotional mind, actually guides and steers the logical system 2.
Wait, so if Kahneman is right, and the emotional system 1 is actually steering the ship, then throwing logic and facts at someone is basically useless until you address how they're feeling.
You hit the nail on the head. You absolutely cannot influence someone's rational system 2 without first addressing their emotional system 1.
Wow.
Negotiation isn't a battle of logical arguments. It's a process of psychological discovery. If you just attack someone with logic, you are completely ignoring the emotional operating system that is actually calling the shots.
So if the first step in addressing that emotional operating system is, mastering the vibe of the negotiation, how do you actually do that when tensions are sky high?
It's all about pacing.
Right, because the source shares this gripping story about a 1993 Chase Manhattan bank robbery in Brooklyn to illustrate this. Two armed men take hostages inside the bank, and the lead robber, a guy named Chris Watts, is incredibly erratic.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
He's creating smoke screens, changing his demands, acting like he has this massive international team of terrorists with him.
And the FBI's first mistake in that scenario was rushing to problem solve. They wanted a quick resolution, which is a totally natural human instinct when things are tense.
Get it over with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But going too fast is a critical error. When you rush, the other person feels managed, they don't feel heard, and it completely breaks trust. The rule Voss lays out is simple: slow it down.
Slow it down.
Going too fast breaks trust. Slowing down calms the situation. Basically, if someone is talking, they aren't shooting.
So when Voss eventually takes over the phone with this bank robber, he uses a very specific technique to force that slowdown. He calls it the late-night FM DJ voice.
Yes, the late-night FM DJ voice is a huge cornerstone of his approach. The technique is profound because it relies entirely on biology. You keep your voice deep, soft, slow, and reassuring.
Okay.
But crucially, use a downward inflection at the end of your sentences. That downward inflection subconsciously signals to the other person, I am in control and everything is going to be okay. It establishes authority without triggering defensiveness.
And our sources point out there are other voices to know, too. There's the positive or playful voice, which should actually be your default.
Right.
You achieve this simply by relaxing and smiling while you talk. The book claims the other person can actually hear the smile over the phone, and it primes their brain for collaboration.
They absolutely can hear it.
And then there's the direct or assertive voice. And the text makes it very clear that you should rarely, if ever, use this one.
Yeah, avoid that one.
It feels like a slap in the face and immediately causes the counterpart to push back.
Once you've established that calming DJ voice, you can deploy what the FBI considers their closest thing to a Jedi mind trick, which is mirroring.
Oh, I loved this part.
In behavioral science, this is known as isopraxism.
I was reading this and it sounded almost too simple to actually work in real life. A mirror is literally just repeating the last 3 words or the critical 1 to 3 words of what someone just said. That is the whole trick.
It does seem overly simple, but the psychology behind isopraxism is rock solid. It taps into the fundamental biological principle that humans fear what is different and are drawn to what is similar.
Okay.
When you mirror someone, you are sending a subconscious signal that says, trust me, you and I are alike. It makes people feel safe enough to keep talking and reveal more information without feeling like they're being interrogated.
I mean, I'm still a little skeptical, especially when looking at the waiter study the text mentions.
A Wiseman study.
Yeah, psychologist Richard Wiseman tested this with wait staff. One group used positive reinforcement, so they were saying things like, great, no problem, or sure when taking orders.
Right.
The second group simply used mirroring. They just repeated the customer's orders back to them word for word. And the waiters who used mirroring got 70% more tips.
70%.
Come on, 70%. Just by repeating an order back, it sounds almost insulting, like you're mocking them.
I completely understand the skepticism, but think about it from the customer's perspective. When a waiter says, great, or sure, it's an acknowledgement, but it doesn't guarantee understanding.
True.
When the waiter repeats your exact words back to you, your brain registers complete alignment. It feels like a deeper level of service and connection, even if it's entirely subconscious. That feeling of being deeply understood translates directly to a higher tip.
Okay, that does reframe it. And the book also shares a really practical application of this for everyday life. There's a story of a student whose boss kept demanding 2 paper copies of every single digital file.
Which is a nightmare.
A massive waste of time. So the student used a 4-step process to confront the boss without actually being confrontational.
Brilliant.
First, she dropped into that late-night FM DJ voice.
Mm.
Second, she started with, "I am sorry." Third, she mirrored him. When he said, "You can store it anywhere," she mirrored with a calm, inquisitive tone, "Anywhere."
Yeah.
And fourth, she used silence. She just let that one word hang there in the air.
That silence is the secret ingredient. It forces the other person to fill the void, and usually they do that by elaborating on or modifying their own position, but just mirroring anywhere and staying quiet. She forced her boss to hear his own ridiculous demand reflected back at him.
And it worked. The boss actually paused, reevaluated his own rule without feeling attacked, and eventually just said, "Actually, just create 2 digital backups."
Amazing.
She saved herself a week of useless paperwork just by using a DJ voice, repeating one word, and letting silence do the heavy lifting.
And this ties perfectly into the next major theme of the source material, tactical empathy and labeling.
The Harlem standoff is the perfect example of this.
Yes.
The scene is incredibly intense. Voss is standing in a narrow hallway on the 27th floor of a high-rise in Harlem. There are 3 heavily armed fugitives holed up inside an apartment. The SWAT team is waiting. There are no phones working. So for 6 straight hours, Voss is just talking through the apartment door.
This is where we really see tactical empathy in action, and we need to be very clear about what that term means.
Okay.
Tactical empathy is not sympathy. It's not about agreeing with the other person or feeling sorry for them. It is about actively understanding the feelings and the mindset of another person in the moment, and more importantly, hearing what is driving the behavior behind those feelings.
And Voss uses a technique called labeling to execute this tactical empathy. Let's freeze on his strategy for a second, because for 6 hours, he did not order the fugitives to come out.
No demands?
He didn't ask what they wanted. He completely bypassed their logic and spoke directly to their fears. He said things like, "It looks like you don't want to come out. It seems like you worry that if you open the door, we will come in with guns blazing. It looks like you don't want to go back to jail."
That is the golden nugget right there.
Yeah.
Notice the specific phrasing he uses. The rules of labeling are very precise. You always begin with phrases like, "it seems like," "it sounds like," or "it looks like." You never use the word "I," such as, "I am hearing that." Using "I" gets people's guard up because it makes the statement about you, not them. And just like with mirroring, you always follow a label with silence to let it sink in.
And it's crazy. After 6 hours of just hearing their fears labeled through a door, the 3 fugitives finally surrender.
Yeah.
They come out peacefully. And when Voss asked them later why they finally gave in, they said, "We didn't want to get caught or get shot, but you calmed us down. We finally believed you wouldn't go away, so we just came out."
Which raises a really important question. Why does simply naming a fear make it go away?
Yeah, why?
Matthew Lieberman, a psychology professor at UCLA, actually studied this phenomenon. He found that when people experience intense negative emotion, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up on an fMRI scan. But when you apply rational words to a fear, when you label it accurately, the activity in the amygdala actually decreases. The neural activity moves to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that governs rational thinking. Labeling a fear literally disrupts its raw intensity. You are bathing the fear in sunlight.
It is incredible to think you can change the blood flow in someone's brain just by saying, "It sounds like you are afraid."
It really is.
And it works far outside of hostage situations, too. The text gives us a great example of a student named TJ who worked for the Washington football team.
Right?
The team was having a terrible season, the economy was bad, and season ticket holders were just refusing to pay their bills. The team had this aggressive, demanding script for calling these fans, and it wasn't working at all. Fans were just hanging up or ignoring the calls.
Because TJ realized he couldn't logical his way out of this. So he rewrote the script using tactical empathy.
He didn't offer discounts.
No, he didn't offer discounts or argue about contracts. Instead, he labeled their situation. He acknowledged the tough economic times. He shifted the focus to their situation and their value to the team. By labeling the negative dynamic, the fact that times were tough and money was tight, he diffused the tension that was making them avoid the phone.
He turned the conversation from, "Give us our money," to, "We recognize you are in a tough spot."
Exactly.
And the result was that he got everyone on a payment plan. That concept of addressing the negative head-on brings us to what the text calls the ultimate proactive label, the the accusation audit.
The accusation audit is a brilliant, albeit terrifying, strategy to execute.
Oh, totally.
It involves listing every terrible negative thing your counterpart could possibly say about you and then saying it yourself before they even have a chance to bring it up. You steal their thunder and take the sting out of their arguments.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The story of Anna, a government contractor, illustrates this perfectly. Her firm was partnered with a smaller company called ABC Corp, and the relationship had turned incredibly bitter.
Really bad.
Yeah, Anna had to go into a meeting to tell ABC Corp that their pay was going to be cut. There was $1 million deal on the line, and it was a hostile environment waiting to happen. So she opened the meeting by auditing the accusations.
Right.
She immediately sat down and said, "You may feel like we have treated you unfairly. It sounds like you think we are the big, bad prime contractor trying to push out the small business."
And by saying the worst things out loud, she completely disarmed them. When she accused herself of being the big, bad prime contractor, the ABC representatives actually found themselves defending her. They were saying, no, we don't think that.
Wow.
By taking the sting out of the negative dynamics immediately, she preserved the relationship and ultimately secured a contract tweak that brought her company $1 million.
Voss even gives his own extreme example of this. He once completely bypassed protocol and deeply angered a furious FBI official in Canada.
Yeah.
When he finally got the guy on the phone, Voss didn't make excuses or try to logically defend his actions. He opened the call with, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned." Unbelievable.
He went right at the negative dynamic, and it worked. The official calmed down, probably laughed a little, and helped him out.
Which brings us to a crucial shift in how we view agreement itself, specifically our cultural obsession with the word yes.
Oh, right. We have all been cornered by that telemarketer trap where they force you down a funnel of yes questions.
Yes.
Do you drink water? Do a clean water. You feel your guard instantly go up because you know you're being manipulated. Every time you are forced to say yes, you feel like you're losing a little piece of your freedom.
That visceral reaction happens because we have completely misunderstood the utility of the word yes. The text breaks down why pushing for yes is actually a terrible strategy. People give 3 kinds of yes.
Yeah.
There's the commitment yes, which is the real deal, a true agreement that leads to action. There's the confirmation yes, which is mostly just a reflexive affirmation. But then there is the counterfeit.
Yes.
And most of the time, people give a counterfeit yes simply because they feel trapped and they just want to make you go away. So if yes is often a trap or a lie, the solution the book proposes is revolutionary. The word no is actually pure gold.
Exactly.
No is not a rejection. It is an oasis of safety. It allows the person to maintain the status quo and feel like they're in control of their own boundaries.
The source highlights Voss's early experience volunteering at the helpline, a suicide and crisis hotline, to illustrate this.
Yeah.
He got a call from a highly dysfunctional Freeport caller named Daryl. Voss used all his active listening skills, argued Daryl out of his fears, and eventually got Daryl to say, "Yes, I suppose so," regarding a plan to get better. Daryl even congratulated Voss on doing a great job on the phone.
And Voss was so proud, he thought he crushed the call. But his supervisor, Jim, told him the call was horrible.
Right.
Why? Because Voss had made the call all about his own ego. He pushed and pushed until he got a counterfeit yes. Daryl said yes just to get Voss off the phone, but Daryl didn't own the conclusion. He wasn't going to actually take action to help himself because he hadn't made the choice autonomously.
The lesson there is profound. Giving your counterpart the right to veto drops their defenses. When people are allowed to say no, they feel autonomous and protected. Therefore, you have to train yourself to hear no not as a door slamming shut, but as a gateway.
A gateway.
When someone says no, you should reframe it in your mind.
Yeah.
It often just means I am not ready to agree yet, or you are making me feel uncomfortable, or I need more information. Once you embrace that and give them the safety of no, the real negotiation finally begins.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring it all together for you. The main shift in perspective you need to take away from this source material is that a negotiation is not an act of battle. It is an act of discovery.
Discovery, yes.
You are not trying to bludgeon someone with logic and math by quieting the voices in your own head, slowing down the pace, using the late-night FM DJ tone, mirroring their words, labeling their emotions to literally calm their amygdala, and actually embracing the word no. You can completely disarm your counterpart. You can bend reality without ever raising your voice.
If we synthesize this journey, I want to leave you with a final, lingering idea to mull over.
Okay.
We spend so much of our lives desperately trying to get people to say yes. We do it in our careers, in our marriages, in our friendships. We culturally equate the word yes with love, agreement, and harmony.
True.
But if we follow the psychology we've discussed today, if no is what actually makes human beings feel safe, autonomous, and respected, how many times have we accidentally trapped the people we care about most by demanding their yes? What would happen to your closest relationships if tomorrow you started your most difficult conversations by explicitly giving the other person permission to say no?
That is a powerful question to walk away with. XT, thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope you take these tools and start bending reality in your own lives. Until next time.